part of a long-term idea of Netanyahu, which is we're going to do what we want in Gaza, the West Bank. We're going to control everything. We'll kill. We'll have a genocide. And anyone that objects, any other country in the region, we'll overthrow that government. That's been the basic strategy for 30 years. For 30 years, the United States has gone along with that strategy, whether it is in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, and Iran was always the big prize. So Netanyahu's been absolutely itching for a big war with Iran, trying to drag the U.S. in. And what we saw last week probably was the great battle inside between the deep state, which is absolutely in line with Mossad. It's basically a Mossad CIA operation for 30 years. And MAGA, which says, stop, we're sick of this. We're sick of these wars. The president, I don't know where he is because I haven't checked my my social media for the last 30 seconds, but he's been on both sides of this. But his base has been saying, do not do this, do not do this. Whereas Netanyahu has been saying next year in Tehran, or his ministers have been putting that out in disgusting vulgarity. So I don't know whether this is going to stop, but this is a battle of a long-term strategy of Netanyahu, remake the Middle East to give basically complete, total impunity to Israel to do every murder, massacre, genocide that it wants to do. And some of us who think that's not making the world a better place. That's not helping anything, and it's not making America more secure. Thanks God, if this ceasefire holds, that's a good thing. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Professor, let's pull on that thread a little bit more of the Israelis. As you mentioned, this has been a multi-decade project of Netanyahu specifically, but it's broadly supported with the Israeli public and certainly with his entire coalition, including literal terrorists that are involved in his government. So he's not going to give up and just say, okay, ceasefire, now we have peace with Iran. That is certainly not going to happen. So what do you expect to see based on previous historical actions from the Israelis? What do you expect the Israelis to do next to try to play their next card to get us drawn in yet again?
Well, the Israelis will make new provocations, that's for sure. They will make arguments that now we see the perfidy of Iran, or for whatever argument to keep drawing us in. I have said for years, I think decades now, that the main job of the president of the United States in modern times is to keep the foot on the brake of the war machine, because it's always revving. If you went to the deep state in the last few days, I think bombing missions against Iran are just splendid. Let's try out those B-2s. Let's see how the bunker busters do. And going beyond that, the regime change, well, that was in half the tweets of the last, or social truth posts of the last few days. So I think that Israel will provoke, and it is the job of the United States, when in rare moments presidents do their job, to keep the foot on the brake. And this morning, Trump unusually chastised Israel in a post saying, do not drop that bomb. Well, actually, that's his job. It's pretty interesting. He did it this time. Yesterday was different. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
So one of the things I'm curious about, sir, you're obviously always looked at the bigger picture, and there was a lot made potentially of Russia and China coming in on Iran's side. That didn't materialize to a major extent, but there were at least some entanglements. We can put this one up on the screen. For example, former President Medvedev of Russia at one point basically threatened, basically said the Americans have accomplished nothing in their strikes. Potentially we could transfer nukes to them. He walked it back a little bit later, saying a number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads, but then he walked it back later. What do you make, though, of how the Russians and the Chinese will respond to what's transpired in the last 12 days?
Yeah, I think, by the way, what Medvedev was saying in that point number 3 was not Russia transferring nuclear arms or endorsing that, but the fact that Pakistan is a country closely aligned with the Islamic cause, obviously, and with Iran, and absolutely able to transfer nuclear weapons. North Korea is another case. And I think that's an important point, by the way, because we've been told that the be-all and end-all is Iran's enrichment of uranium. That is not the true issue at stake here. The true issue at stake is Israel vulnerable by its own actions to a nuclear attack on Israel? The answer is yes. Does Israel create more security for itself the way that it operates? My answer is no. It makes Israel more and more dangerous. Not only did we see, obviously, that the Iron Dome ain't so iron, and that there were easily, it was not hard to penetrate the air defenses in Israel. But Israel seems to think that Iran is the end of the story, and it is not the end of the story. There are 57 countries in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation that are absolutely dead set against what Israel is doing. The vast majority of the world is dead set against it. When you ask about Russia and China, it is their fundamental purpose not to be thrown under the bus of the United States. This is the basic point. They want a multipolar world, not a U.S.-dominated world. And they are succeeding in that because the U.S. does not have the means, the power, in my view, the interest, but put that aside, the means or the power to make a U.S.-dominated world, despite what Washington has believed for more than 30 years. So Russia and China are careful. China's very precise. I think it's a cliche, but it's also true that Russia plays chess, China plays Go.
If there's one thing that has been evidence, is the double standards. In this video, Jeffrey Sachs is one person who has been exposing these double standards. We have seen American and Israel enjoying some funny double standards, but when it comes to Gaza, Iran, Lebanon, and other countries, we don't see the same. We cannot have a country that believe we can have nuclear weapons or others cannot have. And the main reason is they are terrorists. However, the same government is behaving and acting like terrorists. How does this make it better? Because you cannot say I'm a terrorist, well, you yourself, you are behaving as a terrorist. The funny thing is, the term terrorist is a very vague term because it depends who is defining the term. Because some e.g. in Kenya, we had Mau Mau, who are referred as terrorists by the British government. But in Kenyan sense, these people were freedom fighters. Let's go to Israel. We had Ilgun, Hagana. These were referred as terrorists by the same British government. But when it came to Israel, they were referred as freedom fighters. However, the lack of moral clarity is evident because we see the same people cannot agree that Hagan, Ilgin, and all the others were all terrorist groups as per the British government. But today, these are the same groups that are, we can say the same terrorists, came together to form IDF. And today, we can shout and blame others. But what comes is that we can talk about human rights. But these human rights, we stop thinking about them when you're bombing Lebanon, when you're bombing Iran, when you're bombing Gazans. Very funny situation. And one thing I like about Jeffrey Sachs is he doesn't shy from exposing double standards and lies. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comment section. Let's meet in the next video. I'm your host, James.